You've been accepting favors your whole life and you never once stopped to ask what they actually cost you. That's not generosity you've been receiving. That's a ledger being built, entry by entry, and the people holding the pen are waiting for the exact moment you can't refuse to pay. Right now, you think you have friends, allies, supporters. What you actually have is a stack of invisible invoices, and every single one of them carries a maturity date you didn't agree to. The most dangerous people in your life are not the ones who attack you openly. They are the ones who keep showing up with gifts, with favors, with small acts of kindness that you accept with a smile and a thank you, completely unaware that each one is a chain being fastened around your neck. Machiavelli understood something that most people still refuse to accept. Power is never given freely. It is exchanged, leveraged, and hoarded. And the most effective form of leverage ever invented is the one you don't recognize as leverage until it's too late. The favor. The gift. The free lunch. Call it what you want. It's a transaction, and you're the one paying interest. Here's the thesis that should rewire how you move through the world from this moment forward. Nothing is free. Everything has a price. And the moment you accept something for nothing, you have surrendered something far more valuable than money. You have surrendered your freedom to say no. Being helped is not the same as being supported. Being given something is not the same as being empowered. And the person who keeps feeding you for free is not feeding you. They are fattening you for the slaughter. Now I want you to think about your own life for a moment. Think about the colleague who keeps covering for you at work. The friend who keeps paying for dinner. The family member who keeps showing up with help at the exact right moment. Feel the warmth of gratitude. Now feel the cold weight of what that gratitude actually is. It's an obligation. It's a leash. And every time you felt that warm pull of thankfulness, that was the leash being tightened by one notch. You didn't feel it because it was designed not to be felt. That's what makes it so devastating. The reciprocity mechanism is wired so deep into your brain that it operates below the level of conscious thought. You don't choose to feel obligated. You just do. And the people who understand this mechanism, the ones who study human nature the way Machiavelli studied the courts of Renaissance Italy, they know exactly how to use it against you without you ever seeing it coming. So here are 7 dark truths about the favor trap, and by the end of this, you will never look at generosity the same way again. 1. The reciprocity reflex is not a choice. It's a hijacking. You think you decide when to return a favor. You don't. The moment someone does something for you, a neurological debt is created in your brain, and it demands repayment with a force that can override your logic, your preferences, and even your survival instincts. This is not weakness. This is architecture. The human brain evolved this mechanism because reciprocal exchange kept tribes alive. If someone shared food with you, you were biologically pressured to return the favor because the survival of the group depended on it. But that mechanism was designed for a world of scarcity and mutual dependence. It was designed for a context where everyone was genuinely invested in each other's survival. That world is gone. What remains is the wiring. And the wiring does not distinguish between a genuine ally and a strategic manipulator. Your brain cannot tell the difference between someone who helps you because they care about you and someone who helps you because they are building a portfolio of leverage. The obligation fires either way. That's what makes this so insidious. You can be fully aware of the trap intellectually and still feel the pull emotionally. You can know, with absolute certainty, that someone is manipulating you, and still find yourself unable to refuse their request because the debt in your nervous system is screaming at you to settle the account. This is the first cost the favor trap takes from you. It steals your ability to act on your own judgment. You know what the right decision is, but you can't make it because the weight of unreturned favors bends your spine before your mind can intervene. The person who understands this doesn't fight the feeling. They prevent the debt from being created in the first place. But you've been letting debts accumulate for years, haven't you? Every small favor, every free meal, every unrequested act of kindness, sitting in your nervous system like a stack of unpaid bills, quietly compounding. 2. Nothing is ever truly free. The free lunch is the most expensive meal you will ever eat. When someone offers you something for nothing, you need to hear alarm bells, not thank you bells. Because what is offered freely is almost always a trap, and the cost is simply deferred. Think about what happens when you accept a free lunch. You feel a brief flash of pleasure. A small surge of good fortune. Someone is being kind to you. The universe is providing. But what actually happened is that you just accepted a contract whose terms you haven't read. The free lunch comes with invisible clauses. The giver will collect, and they will collect on their terms, not yours. The collection might not come today. It might not come next week. It might come months from now, when you've forgotten the favor entirely, when you filed it away under the category of nice things that happened to me. That's exactly when the bill arrives. And when it arrives, you won't even recognize it as a bill. It will come disguised as a request. A small ask. A reasonable favor. And because you've forgotten the original debt, you'll evaluate this request on its own merits, as if it's a standalone event. It's not. It's the collection. And because you don't recognize it as collection, you'll comply without resistance, without negotiation, without even understanding why you're saying yes. This is the second cost. The favor trap steals your ability to evaluate requests objectively. By the time someone asks you for something, the debt has already done its work. You're not responding to the request. You're responding to the accumulated weight of every unreturned favor that came before it. Your judgment is compromised before the conversation even begins. And the person who gave you the free lunch knows this. They've always known it. That's why they offered it. 3. The small favor is the gateway drug to the large obligation. This is where most people get destroyed without ever understanding what happened to them. The trap doesn't open with a massive request. It opens with something so small, so seemingly insignificant, that refusing it would feel rude, paranoid, even pathological. A colleague brings you coffee. A neighbor shovels your sidewalk. A friend offers you a ride. Each one individually is nothing. Each one collectively is everything. Because each small favor is a brick, and the wall they're building around you is made of obligations so tiny that you'd feel absurd resisting them. But the wall doesn't stay small. Once you've accepted the small favors, a precedent is set. A trajectory is established. And now, when a larger request comes, refusing it would mean breaking the pattern. It would mean contradicting the person you've been showing them you are. The cooperative one. The grateful one. The one who says yes. This is the consistency trap, and it is devastating. You're not just fighting the debt of the specific favor. You're fighting the identity you've built through 100 small acceptances. You're fighting the story you've been telling yourself about what kind of person you are. And that story is the most powerful prison ever constructed because you built it yourself, and you maintain it voluntarily. Strategic people understand this. They know that the small favor is not small. It is the wedge. It is the first move in a game that will escalate if you let it. And they treat every unsolicited Kindness as what it is. A potential opening move in a game they didn't agree to play. Most people accept the small favor and worry about the consequences later. Strategic people decline the small favor and never have to worry about consequences at all. 4. The door in the face is the mirror image of the favor trap, and it works on the same mechanism. Someone asks you for something large, something they know you'll refuse. Then they retreat to something smaller, something reasonable, something that feels like a compromise. And you, feeling the pressure of their concession, feel obligated to make a concession of your own. So you say yes to the smaller request, not realizing that the smaller request was the actual target all along. The large request was theater. It was designed to be refused so that the retreat would trigger your reciprocity reflex. They gave up something, so now you owe them something. That's how the mechanism works in your brain, even though they gave up nothing they actually wanted. This is the third cost the favor trap takes from you. It steals your ability to recognize manufactured concessions. You think someone is meeting you halfway. They're not. They're maneuvering you into a position where your own sense of fairness becomes the weapon used against you. Your decency is the vulnerability. Your instinct to reciprocate is the exploit. And the person who understands this doesn't just use it on you once. They use it repeatedly, cycling through the same pattern: large request, retreat, small request, your compliance, until you've been led so far from your original position that you don't even remember where you started. 5. The person who keeps score is not your friend. This is the truth that cuts deepest because it forces you to re-examine relationships you've trusted for years. Real generosity has no ledger. Real kindness keeps no accounts. When someone helps you and then quietly, subtly, makes sure you remember that they helped you, that is not generosity. That is investment. And the investor expects a return. The signs are everywhere once you know what to look for. The person who brings up past favors during current conversations. The person who frames their help in terms of sacrifice. The person who, when they need something from you, begins by reminding you of everything they've done for you in the past. That reminder is not nostalgia. It's a collection notice. They are presenting the bill. And the bill is always larger than you remember because the interest has been compounding in their mind this entire time. Every favor they did for you has been accruing emotional interest, and the amount they believe you owe is not the amount you received. It's the amount they've inflated it to through repetition and emphasis. This is the fourth cost. The favor trap steals the authenticity of your relationships. You think you have genuine connections. What you have, in many cases, are transactional arrangements disguised as friendships. And the disguise is so convincing that you'll defend these relationships even as they're being leveraged against you. You'll say, "But they're a good person, they didn't mean it that way, they were just trying to help." Maybe. Or maybe they were building a position. The strategic mind doesn't assume malice, but it never assumes innocence either. It observes. It watches for patterns. And the pattern of someone who keeps score is unmistakable once you stop projecting your own generosity onto them. 6. You can neutralize the trap without creating enemies, but it requires precision. Here is where most advice fails. It tells you to just say no, to reject favors outright, to cut off anyone who offers you something for free. That's not strategy. That's self-sabotage. If you reject every favor aggressively, you don't gain freedom. You gain enemies. And enemies are more expensive than debts. The art is not in refusing. The art is in reframing. When someone does you a favor you didn't ask for, you neutralize it not by rejecting it, which creates conflict, but by returning it immediately, which eliminates the debt. You match the energy. You equalize the exchange. Someone buys you lunch, you buy the next round before the conversation ends. Someone does you a small kindness, you respond with a small kindness of equal weight before the day is over. You don't let the debt sit. You don't let it accumulate. You don't let it grow arms and legs. You settle the account while it's still small enough to settle with a gesture. This is the Stoic approach. You do good and you move on. You help because it is right, not because it is strategic. But you also refuse to be helped into a corner. The Stoic helps without expectation of return, but the Stoic also receives without accepting obligation. How? By never letting the imbalance persist. The moment a favor creates an asymmetry, the Stoic restores equilibrium. Not out of anxiety. Not out of weakness. Out of sovereignty. You are not refusing their kindness. You are refusing the chain that comes attached to it. And you're doing it so smoothly that they can't object without revealing their true intentions. If they genuinely wanted to help, the returned favor is a beautiful exchange. If they were building leverage, the returned favor just destroyed their investment, and they can't say a word about it without admitting that their generosity was never genuine. This is strategic elegance. This is what it means to be dangerously clever. You don't fight the trap. You disarm it with a move so graceful that the trapper can't even complain without exposing themselves. 7. The ultimate defense is to need nothing from no one. This is the final principle, and it is the one that requires the most from you. Because every defense I've described so far is reactive. It deals with favors as they come. But the master move is to ensure that the favors never come in the first place. And the only way to ensure that is to build a life where you are not a target. People who offer free lunches are strategic. They don't offer them randomly. They offer them where they see vulnerability, where they see a need, where they see an opening. If you need nothing, there is no opening. If you are self-sufficient, there is no handle for them to grab. This doesn't mean you become a hermit. It doesn't mean you refuse all human connection. It means you build your independence so thoroughly that every interaction you have is a choice, not a dependency. You eat your own lunch. You solve your own problems. You carry your own weight. And when someone offers you something for free, you can evaluate it with clear eyes because you don't need it. You can accept it without obligation because you could have gotten it yourself. You can decline it without guilt because you were never dependent on it in the first place. This is the fifth and deepest cost the favor trap takes from you. Over time, it steals your independence. Not all at once. Not in a single dramatic moment. Gradually. Quietly. One accepted favor at a time. Until one day you wake up and realize your entire life is built on other people's goodwill, and every single one of them knows it. The person who needs nothing from no one operates from a position that cannot be leveraged. And that position, that unshakable ground of self-sufficiency, is the most powerful strategic position a person can occupy. Machiavelli understood this. The prince who depends on his own strength cannot be controlled. The prince who depends on the generosity of others is already a puppet. He just doesn't know who's holding the strings yet. Now let me bring this together, because every principle I've shared connects to a single thread. The favor trap works because it exploits something noble in you. Your desire to reciprocate. Your instinct to return kindness with kindness. Your fundamental decency as a human being. These are not flaws. These are features of a well-functioning human being. But features can become vulnerabilities when they're targeted by someone who understands them better than you do. And that's what this is about. Not becoming cold. Not becoming cruel. Not becoming someone who trusts no one and helps no one. Becoming someone who understands the game so completely that they can participate in genuine generosity without being destroyed by manufactured generosity. The Stoic helps because it is right. The Machiavellian understands why others help. And the person who integrates both understands that the difference between genuine kindness and strategic manipulation is not in the act itself but in the ledger that exists behind it. Real kindness has no ledger. Real generosity keeps no accounts. And the moment you start noticing who is keeping accounts, you start seeing the architecture of power that has been surrounding you your entire life. You start noticing the colleague who always reminds you of that time they covered for you. The friend who always seems to need a favor right after doing you one. The family member whose generosity always comes with a side of guilt. You start seeing the patterns that were invisible before, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. This is both a gift and a burden. It's a gift because it frees you. It's a burden because it forces you to re-examine relationships you've cherished. But the re-examination is not destruction. It's clarification. You're not losing friends. You're discovering which ones were actually friends and which ones were creditors. And that discovery, painful as it may be, is worth more than every free lunch you've ever accepted. Let me give you the practical framework. The rules of engagement for a world where every favor is a potential trap. Rule 1. Never accept a favor you didn't ask for without immediately returning one of equal weight. This eliminates the debt before it compounds. You don't make a scene. You don't announce what you're doing. You simply restore balance quietly and move on. Rule 2. When someone reminds you of a past favor during a current request, that request is not a request. It's a collection. Evaluate it accordingly. You don't owe them because they helped you before. You owe them nothing, because genuine help doesn't come with a receipt. But you also don't say this out loud. You simply evaluate the request on its own merits, as if the past favor never happened, because if it was genuine, it was already complete. Rule 3. Be wary of anyone whose favors are always slightly larger than what the situation calls for. The oversized favor is a power move. It's designed to create a debt you can't easily repay, which means you can't easily equalize, which means the asymmetry persists. When someone does you a favor that feels disproportionately generous for the context, your alarm should fire. Not because they're necessarily manipulative, but because the size of the favor has created a leverage point, and you need to either equalize it immediately or decline it. Rule 4. When you need help, appeal to self-interest, not to mercy. This is one of the most important distinctions you will ever learn. When you ask someone for help by reminding them of what you've done for them, you are operating from weakness. You are essentially saying, I have no power here, so please remember your obligation to me. That's begging dressed up as reciprocity. When you ask someone for help by showing them how helping you serves their own interests, you are operating from strength. You are saying, this benefits both of us, and here's how. That's strategy. The person who helps you because it serves them is far more reliable than the person who helps you because they feel obligated. Obligation breeds resentment. Self-interest breeds commitment. Remember that. Rule 5. Pay your own way. Always. Every time. Even when it's uncomfortable. Even when someone insists. The free lunch is the most expensive meal you will ever eat, and the person who pays their own way sleeps without debt. This doesn't mean you can never accept generosity. It means you never depend on it. There's a difference between accepting a gift and needing a gift. The first is a choice. The second is a vulnerability. Rule 6. Watch for the escalation pattern. Small favor, small favor, small favor, then the ask. This is the classic structure of the reciprocity trap, and once you know the pattern, you can see it coming from a mile away. The small favors are not the kindness. They are the setup. The ask is the kindness. Everything before it was investment. When you see this pattern forming, you have two options. Equalize each favor as it comes so the debt never accumulates, or distance yourself from the person before the ask arrives. Both work. Both preserve your power. Both prevent you from being leveraged. Rule 7. Cultivate the ability to sit with the discomfort of a perceived imbalance. This is the hardest rule, and it's the one that separates the strategic from the reactive. When someone does you a favor and you feel that itch to immediately return it, that itch is not virtue. That itch is the reciprocity mechanism firing in your nervous system. Sometimes you should scratch it. Sometimes you should equalize. But sometimes you should sit with the discomfort and observe it. Observe the urge. Observe the anxiety. Observe the pull. And then decide, consciously, deliberately, whether returning the favor is the right move or whether you're just being dragged by a mechanism that someone else is exploiting. The Stoic does not react to every impulse. The Stoic observes the impulse and then chooses. That is the difference between being controlled by your wiring and mastering it. Now I want you to understand something about what this knowledge costs you. Because it does cost you something. When you start seeing the favor trap everywhere, you start seeing manipulation everywhere. And some of what you see will be real, and some of it will be your own paranoia amplified by new awareness. You need to be honest about that. Not every favor is a trap. Not every gift is a lever. Some people are genuinely kind. Some generosity is truly free. The danger is not in seeing traps where they exist. The danger is in seeing traps everywhere and becoming so guarded that you destroy your capacity for genuine connection. The balance is this. You assume strategic awareness as your default. You observe. You watch for patterns. You notice who keeps score. But you also remain open to the possibility that some people operate without a ledger. You don't project manipulation onto genuine kindness. You simply refuse to be blind to manipulation when it's present. You hold both realities simultaneously. Some people are genuine. Some people are strategic. And you are sharp enough to tell the difference. That is what it means to be dangerously clever. Not paranoid. Not cynical. Sharp. There's a difference. The cynical person assumes everyone is manipulative and treats all generosity as suspect. That person becomes cold, isolated, and eventually bitter. The sharp person recognizes that generosity exists on a spectrum, that some of it is genuine and some of it is strategic, and they calibrate their response to each situation based on observation rather than assumption. The cynical person closes themselves off. The sharp person stays open but stays armed. Be the sharp person. Let me take you deeper into the mechanism, because understanding why reciprocity works is just as important as understanding how it works. The reciprocity principle is powerful because it creates a sense of internal disequilibrium. When someone does something for you, your brain registers an imbalance. You received something. You gave nothing in return. The scales are tipped. And your brain cannot tolerate tipped scales. It needs equilibrium. It needs balance. It needs the account settled. This need for balance is so strong that it can override almost every other consideration. You will return a favor to someone you don't like. You will comply with a request from someone you don't respect. You will sacrifice your own interests to settle a debt you didn't ask to incur. All because the imbalance is intolerable to your nervous system. And the people who exploit this know something you don't. They know that the discomfort of imbalance is your weakness, and they know that the relief of settling the debt is your motivation. They create the discomfort by giving you something. Then they offer you the relief by asking for something in return. The entire trap is built on your own nervous system's inability to tolerate asymmetry. Once you understand this, you understand that the defense is not to refuse all favors. The defense is to build a tolerance for the discomfort of imbalance. To be able to sit with a tipped scale and not be driven to action by the need to level it. That's what the Stoic composure gives you. The ability to feel the pull of obligation and not be moved by it. Not because you're cold. Because you're sovereign. You feel the debt. You acknowledge it. And then you decide, from a position of clarity, whether and how to settle it. You are not reactive. You are deliberate. And the deliberate person cannot be leveraged by mechanisms designed to produce automatic reactions. This is the core of what I'm teaching you. The favor trap is an automatic reaction mechanism. It works because most people are running on autopilot, responding to reciprocity triggers without conscious thought. The moment you bring conscious awareness to the trigger, it loses its power. Not because the trigger disappears. Because you are no longer the kind of person who responds to triggers without examination. You've upgraded your operating system. You're no longer running the default code. Let me bring this back to the thesis, because I want you to feel the weight of it. Nothing is free. Everything has a price. And the moment you accept something for nothing, you have surrendered something far more valuable than money. You have surrendered your freedom to say no. Every time you accepted a favor without examining the cost, you gave away a piece of your sovereignty. Every time you said yes to a request because you felt the weight of an unreturned kindness, you were not making a decision. You were satisfying a debt. And the people who placed you in debt knew exactly what they were doing. They understood something Machiavelli understood 500 years ago. That the most effective form of control is the one the controlled person participates in voluntarily. You don't need to be forced. You just need to be made to feel that you owe. And the feeling of owing will do the rest. It will override your preferences. It will compromise your judgment. It will put you in positions you would never choose to be in if you were operating from a place of freedom rather than a place of debt. The free lunch is not free. It is the most expensive thing you will ever consume because you pay for it with pieces of yourself that you can't get back. Your time. Your energy. Your choices. Your integrity. Your independence. These are the currencies the favor trap deals in, and you've been spending them without even knowing you had your wallet open. But now you know. And knowing changes everything. Not immediately. Not in a single moment of revelation. But gradually, as you start applying these principles, as you start watching for the patterns, as you start equalizing favors before they become debts, as you start evaluating requests on their own merits rather than on the weight of accumulated obligation, you will feel something shift. You will feel the leash loosen. You will feel the space open up around you. You will feel the freedom that comes from not owing anyone anything. And that freedom, that space, that sovereignty, is the most valuable thing you will ever possess. Far more valuable than any favor anyone could ever do for you. Far more valuable than any gift anyone could ever give you. Because the person who owes nothing is the person who cannot be controlled. And the person who cannot be controlled is the person who operates from true power. Not the borrowed power of alliances and obligations. The intrinsic power of self-sufficiency and strategic awareness. This is what Machiavelli was really teaching. Not cruelty. Not manipulation for its own sake. The ruthless understanding that power flows toward those who are not dependent, and away from those who are. The ruthless art Machiavelli perfected was not the art of using others. It was the art of never being usable. Of never being in a position where someone else's generosity becomes your cage. Of never being so indebted, so obligated, so entangled in the webs of reciprocity that your choices are no longer your own. That art is now yours. But knowledge without application is just entertainment. And you are not here to be entertained. You are here to be transformed. So here is what I need you to do. Right now, not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Right now. Think of one relationship in your life where you've been accepting favors. One person who keeps showing up with help, with gifts, with small acts of kindness that you've been receiving without examination. You know who it is. The name just came into your mind. Good. Now ask yourself the question you've never asked. What does this person expect in return? Not what have they asked for. What do they expect? Because the ask will come, and when it does, you want to have already settled the account, or already made the decision about how you will respond. Don't wait for the bill. Audit the ledger now. And then go to the comments and type these 5 words. I am untouchable. Not because you are. Because you are choosing to be. Because the declaration is the first step in the transformation. Because the person who states their sovereignty out loud is already beginning to inhabit it. I am untouchable. Say it. Mean it. Begin. The people who keep helping you aren't generous. They are building a ledger. And the person who sees the ledger before the bill arrives is the person who never has to pay. That person is you. Starting now. Nothing is free. Everything has a price. And the only price worth paying is the price of your own sovereignty. Pay it willingly. Pay it daily. And never, ever, let someone else pick up the check. The ruthless art Machiavelli perfected, now it is yours.